Hi, I am Sarah Murdoch, and I have a whole bunch of questions from readers of my blog on my laptop that I wanted to answer. So this is an Ask Me Anything. People have submitted some questions, and I'm going to go through and answer a few of them for you. They're on travel and packing and a variety of other topics. So I'm just going to go through. We have somebody who has asked that they're going to be in Venice for 2 days at the end of May, and they're looking for suggestions for gifts and souvenirs that would represent Venice nicely but not be too bulky to bring home. I highly recommend in Venice to be sure to bring home some jewelry. You can get hand-blown Venetian glass jewelry. Some of it's very pretty, and you want to make sure it's something that was purchased or made in Venice. So look carefully. There are some nice shops. There's a shop called Rialto 69 that I like very much. It's right on the Rialto Market side of the Rialto Bridge, and they make all their own jewelry. So jewelry would be my suggestion for a souvenir from Venice. Another question on here, also about Venice. I'm spending 4 nights in Venice this September. What should we see or do that's not included in Rick's Venice book? I really recommend doing a food tour. I have met a new friend. Her name's Monica Cesarato, and she does very nice food tours. She also does cooking classes, so those things would be an awful lot of fun. A few other suggestions. I would say get out of the center of Venice and go off onto the mainland and see some other things outside of the center of Venice. So you don't have to go to Murano and Burano. I very much like Sant'Erasmo, which is just kind of a rural area. And there's also a plague island called Lazaretto Nuovo, where you can go and visit the plague. When people had the plague and they arrived in Venice, this is where they would stay. So that's a few things that you could think about doing. Getting off of main island of Venice is what I would recommend the most. Let's see. How do you keep a cell phone safe from pickpockets? That's a great question. A lot of people have reported having cell phones stolen directly out of their hands in some places in Europe recently. And so I would suggest, first of all, having pockets with zippers on them. If you have a pocket with a zipper, you can keep it really close and handy. Otherwise, you can also get lanyards. They're available on Amazon and a few other places. I believe I did recommend them on my blog recently. And you can put a lanyard on, so you attach it to your phone, and then you clip it to your clothes. You clip it to your jacket or whatever, and then when you have it in your pocket, there's kind of a tether. And that would be a great way to make sure, especially in an area that's known for having pickpockets, to make sure your phone is safe. So that would be what I suggest. How did I get started in the travel industry, and how would one start and make a career of it? There were several questions about that. I should probably save that for a later time because it's a bit of a long story. I was an architect in the past. I studied in Italy, and I learned to speak Italian, and I learned the country quite well. And I just sent in a resume, and I asked for a job. So it's kind of straightforward, a little more complex than that. For people today getting started, it would be different. That was about 20 years ago, and I just kind of got lucky. But I would say for now, there are a lot of ways you could get started simply by doing what I'm doing here. You can create social media. You can start writing as a blog. You can create a YouTube channel. There are a lot of new opportunities out there using technology to show people what you're doing, but you need to find your voice and find your audience and not just do what everybody else is doing. So that's what I would suggest, is try to find a part of the travel industry that is has needs that are unfulfilled. One idea would be working with people who are disabled. It's a really interesting end of the travel industry nobody's really talking about just off the top of my head. So try to find yourself an interesting niche and go with that. Contact companies that you'd like to work for. Let's see. So there's also questions here. I'd like to spend 2 to 3 months in Spain. The goal is to enjoy the culture. Any ideas on how to find a good situation? That would be great to not have a car. So this is a generally interesting question. How do you go and soak in a place and not have a car? I really recommend looking into a short-term apartment rental, and you can do that not just in Spain but anywhere else. Most places in Europe you can get around without a car without any problem at all, and if you rent one apartment you can stay there long-term, get to know the neighborhood. So I would look beyond Airbnb. Actually, I would go maybe to HomeAway. That's a pretty good website, and do a long-term apartment rental for a month even, and get to know each place individually. And you can always find buses and cars and things like that to be able to get around, and then get to know the person who owns that and see what they suggest for activities. Let's see what else. The box of awesome. Do I carry items to restock in my main luggage? No, I don't. I bring what I think I'll need just based on past history, and when it's gone, it's gone. So I try to bring a lot of things that people use often, like Band-Aids, and not as many things that like tooth filling material I'll bring one of. But you know, it's really good to have tape and glue and things like that, safety pins, and you'll see over time if you build a box of awesome what you use and what you don't. Let's see, Christine, a friend of mine, she asks, what suggestions do I have for a visit in October in Venice? We went over that just a little bit, but I would say if you have some time, get outside of Venice and go around the Veneto area. I really enjoy areas like Treviso. Treviso is like a little tiny Venice. There's so many wonderful things to do in the Veneto. I've rented a car there multiple times and had fun adventures wandering around the countryside. So I would highly recommend renting a car and just sort of seeing where the day takes you. There's also a lot of great wine. Also, if you head down to the south, you can head down towards the Eugenian Hills in Montagnana in the direction of Mantova. You can also go up to the north if you want, up to Asolo, which is a food kind of capital. So there's a lot to do in that area. I would say rent a car if you have a few days in the Veneto area that you'd like to explore. Let's see. Where would I love to go, but that I've never been? Oh, that's interesting. I am very interested in exploring India. That's probably one of the places that I would like to work up to going. I'd like to offer a tour to India eventually. I'm not quite there yet. I want to go and do some exploring on my own, but eventually that's something I plan to offer as a tour as well. There was another question here about China, if I was interested in China, and I do intend to offer a tour to China in the future, possibly in 2021. So that is, those are two places I'm interested in. Taking a safari in Africa is definitely on my list as well. So those are up and coming things that I think I'll be doing with imprint tours. So stay tuned for those, and maybe you can come with me. Do you suggest any particular reading prior to individual trips? Travel guides, history of the country? Definitely. Read everything you can about a country. I'm heading to Morocco this next week. I've bought books on Islam. I've bought local travel guides. We watched movies. There's so many different things that you can do to explore a country before you get there. And the point is, the more you learn about the place before you go, the more you'll enjoy it once you're there because you know what you're looking at. So absolutely explore the religion of the destination you're going to, explore the history, explore the culture, the music, the poetry, anything you can get your hands on for the particular place that you're going. In Europe, Rick Steves obviously is a great resource for destinations, but watch TV shows, watch movies. My son and I watched Indochine before we went to Vietnam, and that really was evocative and it got us in the mood for our trip. So absolutely, I would say pick up everything. Go to the library, check out everything you can on your destination. Here's another question. How many nights do you recommend in each place on a trip for the balance of experiencing life as a local versus day tripping? I highly recommend 3 nights if you can do it. 3 nights, that's a good experience amount of time. 2 nights, you arrive, you're there one day, one full day in reality. 3 nights, you actually have 2 full days, and that gives you a little bit more of a chance to kind of see something in depth, especially someplace like Venice. I would never go for less than 3 days because you really need time to understand a place like that. But anywhere else I can think of in the world, a minimum of 3 days to get to know a place at a nice introductory level is important. Question about Umbria. Any hidden treasures in Umbria? Oh boy, Umbria. I want to do a tour of Umbria so badly, maybe next year or the year after. There's so much to see in Umbria. Everybody loves Tuscany because they love the Olive Garden and Francis Mays. Cool, but Umbria actually is just as beautiful, if not more beautiful. Orvieto is sort of like a second home for me. I love it in that area around Orvieto. Civita di Bagnoregio, which is a really beautiful little hill town you've probably seen pictures of. But there are some other lesser known places like Todi and Gubbio, things around Assisi. There's some interesting little towns around Assisi, and you can stay in beautiful agriturismi there, the farmhouses, and enjoy the country lifestyle. So Umbria is absolutely full of wonderful things to do. You could spend a long time there. It's called the Green Heart of Italy, and I really recommend it. Also, northern Lazio is wonderful too. That's the region that Rome is in. So the area around Viterbo is wonderful. You can go to Bommarzo Monster Park. You can go out to the coast and go out to Tarquinio, which has Etruscan tombs. So much to do in that region. So yes, northern Lazio and Umbria, you could spend a month there and you'd never be bored. Tons and tons to do. Another question, how long did it take me to learn how to speak Italian fluently? Oh boy, I think, well, let's see, 25 years. Any programs I recommend? I recommend more than programs, it's best to get to know people who speak the language and try to speak it as often as you can with them. There are online services where you can meet with a tutor once a week who speaks that language, or find a tutor in your own hometown. The programs that they have are just never the same as actually having to speak the language with somebody. The best thing you can do is go to that country and just be bold, make a fool of yourself, say silly things. It's very important to just try. So more than anything, you really, really need to just jump in and speak the language to people. I like Duolingo, it's fun, but I'm not sure it teaches you anything. So more than anything, having a tutor, I think, would be a very important thing to do that. Tricks to get cheap flights. Oh boy, that's hard. Look way in advance. If you can plan 6-8 months in advance, track them. Track plane ticket prices. Hopper is a good app for that. You can track it and it'll give you price ideas, and as things go up and down you can track it. See what you can do with miles if you have any miles. I actually have been calling Delta directly rather than looking things up, because the last time I booked a ticket directly through Delta over the phone rather than on an app, they found a much cheaper ticket than I could have ever found. So, just do everything. Call a travel agent. You should absolutely look online. You should absolutely go ahead and call the airline directly. So there's lots and lots of choices for that, and I highly recommend doing that. So that's all I have to answer for you for right now. I'm going to wrap it up, and I'll try to answer a few more of these in another Ask Me Anything. So thanks for joining me for Ask Me Anything this week. I'll set up another one and do another one for you next week. Ciao!